Discretion is advised.
It's the Full Metal Show.
Are you high?
What are you
talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
Give me a break. The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Well, the hour is upon us, isn't it? Welcome again to another edition of the Full Melt Show. I'm Steve Green, broadcasting live from the PetPain.com studios about cannabis news, culture, and information across the great old USA. I'll tell you, the hour to on us tonight, 7 o'clock. That's when you hear us Monday through Friday from 7 until 8 Eastern Standard Time live. Every single day of the week during the year. Sometimes, occasionally, on weekend programs. Every once in a while, we'll get out to a live event on a weekend. It's really, really hard to do a show 5 days a week and show up, unless you got a giant crew to help you happen. You know, we're not ABC or NBC or any of those big shots, so getting around during the week to do live shows is a lot harder to do. It can be done, but it's just a little expensive. That's all I'm saying. Welcome to the program tonight, 7 o'clock, not only being our broadcast time, but also, if I'm not mistaken, it's this hour when debate begins at the Detroit City Council discussing the issue of zoning ordinance on the proposed and now passed medical marijuana ordinances with regards to dispensaries. So it's a dispensary ordinance. They already passed a couple weeks ago or a week ago, a little better than a week ago, I think. Coming back now to visit the zoning issue. And so we're going to try and talk a little bit about that during the program. Now, unfortunately, all the best people that I could get to talk about this subject are likely all out at this event. Yeah, it would be really a waste of time to have them on the program here talking about the subject when the work is getting done with the rolled up sleeves at the people at City Council in Detroit. So let me just... Well, I guess we'll save that for later. There's a lot of implications as it comes to this zoning set of ordinances. It sounds like a really boring subject when you start talking zoning ordinances. People's eyes roll. But if you're talking about having a dispensary in Detroit, Michigan, these ordinances mean everything. There are already some close to 200 dispensaries in the 139 square mile radius of Detroit. It's not really a radius. It's 139 square miles in size. I think if I'm not mistaken, it's the largest landmass city. I mean, that statistic sticks out in my head, if memory serves. There aren't any other big cities with a landmass of that size. That's a huge area for a metropolitan area. Point being that you need a dispensary every once in a while if you're going to serve people without having to go too far. Some of them have grouped together, and I think that's a good thing, too, because it spurs on competition for prices. Isn't that what free market in America is all about? Competition brings better prices. It brings product innovation. It brings customer service. It makes everything better because if the guy's doing it better next door to you, you better step up your game if you expect people to come to you. I don't think the zoning commission or the ordinance proposed by Councilman Tate at the Detroit City Council is in line with that set of thinking. See, these councilmen and women are all receiving complaints from their constituents. The ones that they hear from are the ones that bitch, right? They're not... Councilmen don't often get calls from people saying, hey, you did a great job putting those flowers in over there on 7th and 4th, or whatever you're talking about. They don't get compliments often. So when they get calls, it's to bitch. They're going to complain about something. And so you get church groups and other, soccer mom type people who are worried that the 3 or 4 cannabis shops between where their kid starts to walk to school and their kid gets to school might be some ruffian neighborhoods. See, where I grew up, it was all about the pool hall. Oh, you can't be a pool hall there. They're going to teach them how to smoke. Somebody might have some grass somewhere. Oh, those pool halls, it's all a bit, that's what they didn't like the pool hall where I lived. Oh, God forbid if you started talking about pot back then. They just come and hunt your ass down and string you up. But now that we're talking about these kinds of things and they're springing up here and there, that's the new pool hall in Detroit. It's these medical marijuana facilities. Now, I could understand the natural knee-jerk reaction of some of these mothers to want to think, or the people who are complaining, because it's mostly not mothers. I think it's mostly older people. You got to remember, Detroit's population has dwindled down to just the ones who already have something in Detroit, or, the ones who are just diehards, sticking it out. And many of those people are old. So you got some younger people trying to carve some new turf, and then you got these old people. And the old people are the ones that are going to call and complain. Oh, I see my granddaughter going by that medical marijuana dispensary every morning, and I'm worried she's going to get sucked into the awful world of drugs. Pray, Jesus, that never happens, as she walks off to her Baptist church on Sunday morning. I better tell the councilman about that because I want to protect my daughter. Well, this is a natural thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. Everybody wants to protect their kids. The idea is that it's crazy that you would think that a medical marijuana dispensary where A, only adults can enter, and B, there's security on site, and C, it's not a rundown building that's burnt down she's walking past anymore where there's a rapist hanging out in there or some child molester or anything. I mean, kids disappear all the time. There's Amber Alerts left and right out in the Wayne County, Detroit area. So it would seem to me that the logic here, I mean, you certainly aren't concerned about them walking past the CVS where everybody's walking out with their opiates all day long. Or other drugs, for that matter. Mental stability drugs, all kinds of stuff coming out of there. You're not worried at all about them walking through the parking lot and finding some of those? Really? It seems to be more prevalent, and you know what? They don't require any space between CVS and Rite Aid. They'll put them right across the street from each other. Same thing with the liquor stores. Got a liquor store there, got a liquor store right over there. One might sell beer and wine, one might sell booze. They both might sell both. No restrictions there, or if there are, they're small, because just right next door, just right around the corner, there's another liquor store. You're not worried about them walking by the liquor stores where, all the crackheads and the heroin addicts and everybody else who drinks booze excessively and is hanging out waiting for the store to open because that's, the first chance they can get some booze. You're not worried about that one, are you? So why are you worried about the usually elderly or sickly, even if they're not elderly, many times they're sickly, they're debilitated, patients going into a medical marijuana shop? These are the arguments being made tonight at Detroit City Council. We'll talk about that in greater detail. Also, coming up after the first break here, I wanted to talk a little more in depth about a story that we've been actually prying on for a while. Ever since, who's the guy? There's a guy that is part of the NFL. He's a former Denver Bronco. What's the guy's name? It's escaping me at the moment. I'll tell you who it is in just a second here, because I'd have to look it up now. I don't know. It's just the way it happened. But there's this story about the NFL and players in the NFL forming a group recently speaking in Arizona. Why is it I'm not seeing it here? Did it fall out? Did it fall out of the top 10 stories? Couldn't imagine that. Where are you at here? Allegations, Here we go. Former NFL players voice support for medical marijuana. And they're talking about medical marijuana, I believe, among sports people. Getting a terrible cold, I think, at this time of the year. A little congested from the cold and hot, the change of the seasons. There's a story in it's azcentral.com. It's a paper a publication out of Phoenix, Arizona. And actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, some of this has to do with the Associated Press. So just credit where credit goes. We'll talk a bit about Nate Jackson. That's who I couldn't think of the guy's name. Denver Bronco, Nate Jackson, former player. He spoke, I think this spring, like just before the Cannabis Cup. Right before the Cannabis Cup, there was sometime late in March, I believe, that he was at another Denver area event or Colorado area event and spoke out about the need for the NFL to sanction, to sanction. And I'm talking about sanction, I'm not talking about punish, but give permission, give authorization for, or at least do some kind of initial research into medical marijuana and their players. And there's good reason for this. First off is the patent I've quoted to you again and again. I'll give you the number. It's 6630507. That's what it is. I'll never forget that number, 6630507. It's the federal government's patent number on cannabinoids, both CBD and THC having neuroprotectant qualities as related to Alzheimer's and other associated diseases. Any of the, you got multiple sclerosis, some of you've got these muscular diseases, these are all neurologically related. This is the field, I think, that will break open the most, aside from cancer, that's another big one, that when they finally do get the tentacles of the FDA into whole plant cannabinoid research, we'll discover that there's all these tremendous, miraculous even, groundbreaking effects that cannabis has on the human body that will either prevent or reverse disease. There's all kinds of anecdotal evidence, pointing in that direction, but none of it meets the standard of the FDA. So 6630507 being the federal patent. I mean, in order to get a patent on something, you have to have some scientific evidence, some methodology, some provable, reproducible method. It is a scientific standard. It is the gold standard. The scientific method. Reproducible theory turned into proof via testing. You can't get a patent without this information. So it tells you, number one, that the federal government already knows via this patent, which was issued long ago, about the neuroprotective qualities of cannabinoids and how that may affect these NFL players suffering from neuropathic issues, primarily concussive ones. You have a concussion, brain tissue dies, swelling happens, inflammation. Cannabis affects this, and the NFL might be the key to unlocking it. More about that next.
You're getting the full melt.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Your old friend the Crypt Keeper here with a Pottober News Bulletin. Ghoulies and creepies gather thee round for a map to patience partying down. As the days grow shorter to the end of month 10, it's time to gather, friend among friend. Michigan card holders, admission is free to the X on the map dubbed Hall Deboween. This lure of free fun is perfectly true, and this is the invite. Yes, that means you. The vendors and speakers this day are just ghosts, exchanged for free entry, free food, and a toast. Asunder our differences this Hallows Eve, so we may bring fire to glorious weed. You may light up and your neighbor may match it. The smoke in the air is to bury the hatchet. The contests you enter are all also free. Considerable prizes for the winners there'll be. Canna Meds are welcome. It's alcohol free. The Jam Shack, Mount Morris, from 7 till 3.
Deboween sponsors include Depot Town of Ypsilanti, Sweetly, Flint, Harborside, Ann Arbor, Third Coast, Ypsilanti, Dank Team, Flint, Two Guys in a Grow Shop, Burton, Florida Bob's Place, Puff and Stuff of Lansing, Happy Buddha, Lansing, The Spot, Kalamazoo, Compassion Club US of Grand Rapids, Iron Labs, Walled Lake, Herbal Solutions, Ypsilanti, Clio Cultivation, The Herbal Center of Mount Morris, IDK Farms, Kurtz Leach and Associates of Birmingham, Act Labs, Lansing, Go Clark Bash Investments, Burton, Hybrid.Life Magazine, Once Bitten, Twice Baked, Plush Lighting in Niles, Cannabis Council, Detroit, Nichols Law Firm, East Lansing, The Green Rock Cafe, Flint, Urban Garden Supply, Flint, also the Marijuana Ranch, Happy Harvesters, The Full Melt Show, Lindy's Bed, Matty Eddie's, Lex Cocaine, Jaxka Farms, and BDT Hazel Park.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
It's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki,
Sacred Elements.
raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Door Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moves from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the Big Cup competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
You were all done up, but it wasn't for me.
It's really easy to find us on iTunes and subscribe to the program, where you get a copy of the program if you can't listen live. And it's real unfortunate. You'll see why in a couple of minutes if you can't listen live, what you're missing out on, I guess. Because you can't call on the phones, and you got to call on the phones to win stuff. But you can find us on iTunes. You get a copy of the show every day. Just go to thefullmelt.com. Right there at the top of the page, find the iTunes link, click on it, and subscribe. Just that simple. Got to congratulate our No Smell winner if she calls in this next segment or anytime within the remaining program content. Jen Sherwood, if you're listening now, call 844-420-TALK to claim your Canalock No Smell 1-ounce bag. It's a $50 retail value, and we'll also throw in a coveted full-color limited edition, I might add, Full Melt show shirt. So Jen Sherwood, call now, 844-420-TALK. Coming up at the end of the program, we're going to do another giveaway. I will be giving away Great Lakes Expo tickets to the Great Lakes Canna Expo. It's happening at Burt's Warehouse Theater the 6th, 7th, and 8th of November. A pair of tickets and also another show shirt giving away later on in the program at the end of the show. But you need to know the magic phrase. The magic phrase is Anderson Cooper. That's the big puff of smoke. Anderson Cooper. He's the guy that at the beginning of the show says, what does he say? He says, "Are you high? What are you talking about?" It's CNN's Anderson Cooper. That's the answer to the magic question. If you can answer that question, we'll give you the first person to be able to answer that. We'll give you the Great Lakes Canna Expo tickets. So we were talking about the Detroit, and I said before, the guests that we could have on this are all up there at the city council meeting. It's happening right now. If you want to call during this segment and talk about if you've got an interest in a dispensary in Detroit, or if you go maybe to a dispensary in Detroit. Because you don't have to be a Detroiter to go to a dispensary in Detroit. You might be in the suburb. You might just have a favorite brand that you get from somebody at a particular place, so you're willing to travel some distance. A lot of people go to Detroit to get drugs. Cannabis, legal cannabis, is no different. So the question is, I suppose, the question really is, what does all of this mean tonight? You know, and I'm a little remiss. Maybe somebody that's listening has a copy of them, and I'm sure I could look them up, but I don't have time now that I'm on the air, to look up the actual ordinances as proposed. But there is some considerable concern about these zoning ordinances, because if there's 200 dispensaries in the city and you start drawing a circle around the zoning ordinance locations, the current locations of these dispensaries, they're all operating technically illegally under state law. But Detroit intends to carve out some space, some protection for these people by letting them exist under licensing. And the licensing has been passed. The the ordinance with regards to the dispensaries themselves, the licensing procedures to get a dispensary in the city, that's already been hashed out. It's already been voted on. It's already been approved. It's already been voted in. It doesn't take effect until they vote this in, and it's the zoning part. And I think it's the most controversial, because the first part looks great. But when you figure out how many dispensaries there are currently and how many there'll be after they pass this ordinance, because the ordinance says existing dispensaries that are open right now will have to close and apply for licensing with the city of Detroit. So if you draw a circle around each of these places with regards to protection, so the zoning ordinance says that these locations cannot be within 1,000 feet of a school or a playground or a public park. 1,000 feet. Even more crazily, these dispensaries have to be at least 2,000 feet from each other, or from a liquor store, or any other, what do they call it? Protected class, I think is the term that they use in the ordinance. Any other protected class, and I think when they're talking about protected class, they're talking about these special licenses for alcohol and tobacco. I'm sorry, not tobacco, alcohol and cannabis. I don't know, maybe if there was just a tobacco store, maybe there's just a cannabis store. There might be, I suppose, some special circles around that. So let's start talking to some people here. I'll take a few phone calls and discuss what this, because if you start drawing circles around these places, a lot of them that exist now get ruled out, because you'll find that there's a park or another dispensary, or and then you're going to figure out which dispensary. You got to fight it out in court which dispensary gets to exist, right? If you're you're not within around a park or a school or a playground or that kind of thing. You're not around a liquor store, but there's another dispensary, and he's 500 feet from you. In fact, you got one on each side of you. Which one gets to stay? What happens then? Hello, you're on the Full Melt Show. Oops, they're gone. Try this again. Hello, you're on the... Oh, where did we go? Hello, you're on the... They're all gone. What the hell happened?
Hello?
Hang on a second. Hold on. Stand by. Okay. Are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Who's this?
Jen Sherwood.
Jen, congratulations, Jen. You are
thank you very much.
You're the winner of a Cadillac No Smell bag and a full color T-shirt from the Full Melt Show, a show shirt. So
that is awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's just a $50 retail value, but I'll tell you what, these Cadillac bags are awesome. They're great for travel. I find them very useful since I was introduced to them. They do come in very handy. It's usually when I'm on the road. I usually don't keep them, the cannabis in the Cadillac No Smell bag while I'm at home, because I don't mind the smell of it. But it seems to me, for travel especially, that it's convenient because it conceals it. Do you have an idea where you might use your Cadillac bag? Where might it best suit you and your lifestyle?
Well, it's going to do a couple of things for me. My lady and I, we like to travel and do camping, and so we will put it to use when we're traveling, and also when we're getting ready to meet the gentleman from Iron Labs to send in some samples.
Oh, so that's a great idea. So when you take it to have it sampled, it's a great place to conceal it.
Great, yeah. It's awesome. I'm looking really forward to checking it out.
That is, it's a cool thing. So congratulations. I'm glad you won. If you want, you can still stick around during the end of the show. We're going to give away some tickets to the Great Lakes Canna Expo. This is coming up November 6th, 7th, and 8th at the at Burt's Warehouse Theater. It's actually the place where they held the Michigan Cannabis Cup, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Cannabis Cup from High Times back in 2011. The first medical cup was held there. So that's where this is at. It's a great location. Love Burt, love the area, love the theater. It's right there in the Eastern Market District. So if you're familiar with Eastern Market, it's right there on the Strip. And there's a lot of people. It's a good time. From the people that I've met and talked to about this event, it should be a great time. And it also might be an opportunity for you to use your brand new Candlelock No Smell bag.
Yeah, it might be.
So can I ask what city you're calling from? What area?
I am calling from Stanton, Michigan.
Whoa, Stanton. You got it.
Yeah.
Stanton's up there a ways, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, actually. I know a couple of people that you know. They're kind of close, some club members even.
Oh, really? Yeah. So you know some people at the...
Lori Snyder.
Oh, who?
Lori Snyder.
Oh, okay. So, listen, are you planning on coming down to Dabbaween by chance?
Where to? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Are you familiar with the Dabbaween event?
No.
So
I am going to a different party, but I am coming down to Lansing tomorrow.
You are? Well, you'll be driving right.
Yeah.
If you're coming down from Stanton, you should be coming. Well, now is that on the west side of the state or is that on the east side of the state? Where you're at?
I will be. Well, I'm only about an hour away from Lansing.
Uh-huh.
I'm in between, like, Mount Pleasant, Grand Rapids, and Lansing.
Okay, so this is in Mount Morris.
So I'm just north and a little west.
So do you know where Mount Morris is at, right?
Yeah, I do. That's definitely straight east of me.
So it's not too far away from you?
It's a couple hours.
It's a couple hours. Well, I'm saying it's not too far away as
Yeah.
you're coming downstate to go to Lansing.
Right.
So you could stop by there. It's a totally free event. It's like a big costume party and hang out. It's free for patients and caregivers. So if you've got your medical card, you can get in. I believe there'll be between 500 and 700 people there altogether, in my estimation, because it's been fairly well advertised and it is free if you've got your Michigan Medical Marijuana
Right. And
card.
you say that is tomorrow?
It's tomorrow night from 7 until 1 in the morning at the Jam Shack in Mount Morris. So if you get a chance, please stop down and say hi and enjoy the festivities. There's prizes and stuff. There's free food. It's just being thrown as a kind of a bury the hatchet party for patients and caregivers in Michigan, as a chance to relax and enjoy each other's company without the bother of speakers and vendors and advertisement and sales and all that. It's just a chance to have a good time at a party at a great time of the year.
Hey, that sounds like a good thing, and I'll definitely chat with my girlfriend, and we'll see about coming out.
Well, I hope to see you. So listen, we selected your email address, and so we've corresponded by email about this a little bit. So if you want to do me a favor and send me back through the email your address so we can send you out the Candlelock bag wherever you want it to go. If you want a P.O. box or whatever, give me the address where you want me to send your prize to, and we'll take care of it that way. Is that okay? Otherwise, I'd have to put you on hold and wait until the next commercial break.
All right. Hey, that sounds like a wonderful thing, and we can get right on that for you.
All right. Awesome. So, again, it's
all right, well,
Jen Sherwood, right?
Yeah, you have a wonderful evening, and thank you very much, Steve.
You're welcome. Congratulations. So,
all right. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye now. We're talking about the Detroit dispensary zoning ordinance and how that applies. So, I suppose first off, a couple of views here. If you're gonna, as the Detroit City Council, end up paring down from about 200 dispensaries in that 139 square miles to about 40. There's only about room for 40, maybe a couple more beyond that, but not much. It depends on how they tweak this zoning ordinance tonight. If they can talk them down on the variance between these two locations as required now, as it's currently written. It's not, part of any ordinance now, of course. What's being proposed, the way it stands, what they're going to talk about tonight, is this 2,000 feet between dispensaries rule, and 2,000 feet between a dispensary and any place selling alcohol. And for that matter, maybe, and I'm not for sure, I'd have to ask a lawyer about this or somebody who knows more about Detroit zoning. Because what happens if it's just a tobacco shop? What if it's just, like a Wild Bill's tobacco shop? Does that have special conditions attached? In other words, do you have to, be a certain distance now from those as well? 2,000 feet? Because if you start drawing circles and you start asking questions about who's got protection and who you got to be away from, there's only about 40 places left in Detroit to occupy a dispensary at. Now, assuming that all 40 of those places, and we're just using 40 as a nice round number for argument's sake, because it could be a few more. Less than 45, though, for sure, I think, the way it looks now. If you then, as the city council, say, you know what? There's an allowance for one there. We could put one at that location. But we're just not going to, we don't like one there. We don't want to put one there for whatever reason. We're not even going to tell you why we don't want one there, but we're just not going to allow for, they could maybe only actually give licenses to 20 of those places. Isn't that something to think about? Hello, you're on the Full Melt Show.
Hey, Steve.
Who's calling?
This is Larry.
Larry, where are you calling from, Larry?
I'm calling from Highland.
So thanks for calling. Do you have something to say about this Detroit City ordinance business?
Well, yeah, listening to your show, I'm kind of wondering, why is it such a big deal that they have to be so far away from a liquor store or, something like that? I can kind of understand why, you don't want a liquor store or a pot store next to a school or something like that.
Here's the funny, Larry, hang on one second. First off, we're going to break, so I thank you for calling, but stick with me through the break because I want to pick this apart a little bit. I want to answer your question, but I think that liquor stores don't have to be a certain distance from schools, if I'm not mistaken. There are no requirements that liquor stores be certainly located away from schools that I'm aware of. We're only talking about pot. Hang on, we'll talk about it after the break.
You're getting the Full Melt.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade, you got this.
At book club, they were asking me what you're doing now, Janice. Blogging. Your blog is just pictures of you in a mirror. It's called a fashion blog, Todd. Well, I've been helping people save money with Progressive's discounts. Flo, can you get Janice a job? You should have stuck to softball. I was so much better at softball than Janice did. Where's your wife, Todd? Vacation. Discounts like homeowners, multi-policy. I got a discount on this ham. I've got the meat sweats. It's good ham, Diane. Paperless discounts. Give it a rest, Flo. Yeah, Flo, give it a rest.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moved from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the Big Cup competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
We ask people to tell us something that happened in their past and something that might happen in their future. The good things were put on yellow magnets and the bad ones on blue. The results show the past was a pretty even mix of good and bad, yet the future was almost all good things. Now that you've seen the results of this experiment, what does it mean to you?
We all want to think about positive stuff.
Realistically, there will be down times.
It's great to think optimistically, but let's plan for whatever the future might bring.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD Hemp Oil Drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the Allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Every time I stare into the sun.
You're a medical marijuana patient in the state of Michigan. You don't have a caregiver. You don't have a garden at home. You've just got your card. And I don't know why you got your card if you don't have a caregiver, if you're not growing at home, because that's all that really the card is supposed to give you the permission to do. Have one or the other. Have somebody grow it for you. Grow it yourself. That's the remedy in Michigan. But a lot of people, given that, people started putting up dispensaries, they did it just like they did in California, just as kind of a natural progression. Look, we're only allowed to have so much, so what do you do with the rest? Let's give it to some organization that's then going to dispense it to other people that have a card. At least it's going to the right place. It's not going out into the black market, because nobody ever produces a product simply to destroy it. Occasionally you'll find that in the food or in the pharmaceuticals industry. You will get that, where they screwed something up. They're poisoning the public. Something's contaminated. Something's wrong. There's a recall involved. That's a little different. But in this instance, all you want to do is go to the pot shop and get a little cannabis. And there's some 200 of them in Wayne County, mostly in the city of Detroit, right there. There's more than 200, I'm sure, in all of Wayne County. Just in Detroit, though, almost 200. By best count, some 184, 185, 189, I don't know. It seems like a few have opened and a few may have shuttered. It goes up and down. It varies all the time. It depends on when you do the count and how you do the count, I guess. Now, mind you, there are still lots of other places you can buy weed in Detroit, just on the black market. Lots of them. But this is just for the medical community. And they're trying to do it right to some degree. At least they're carding people that are coming in. You're giving the cannabis to the person that's got the card. That's the only way you get in with these pot shops. They ask for your ID. They ask for your pot card, your medical card. If you don't have it, you can't get it. So if you're in an area now where there's 2 or 3 or maybe 5 of these places and they're competing with each other, they got decent pricing, they got a decent selection. Some places have stuff that other places don't have. Or maybe you go to one to get this and you go to the other to get that, because that's what they each do best. This new zoning ordinance, if it goes into effect, and it's going to cause some problems, because first off, everybody that's open has to close their doors once it's passed and in effect. That's the edict. That's the ordinance. It says anybody with a cannabis shop now for medical patients dispensing cannabis inside of the city of Detroit's zone, inside their city limits, you're going to have to close your doors and then apply for a license. Now, how many licenses are there to go around? What if they only issue 20 out of the 40 that are available? There's currently at least 180 of them. Those guys that are all next to each other on your street or up the street from you or closest to you that are competing with each other and offering good prices and have specialty things that others don't have, all the great things you love in free enterprise America in this free country, that's what commerce is about. That's what free enterprise is about, creating competition, doing better than the next guy, sparring growth and development, doing things better all the time. That's why this country's great. It just is that way. Oh, sorry about that. The Full Melt Show. Hello, you're on the air.
Hey, it's Larry. I dropped my phone.
So
disconnected.
Hang on, let me get rid of these other lines. Hold on one second. That line's gone. That line's gone. There, that one's gone. Are you there, Larry? Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
There we go. So, if you're used to going to one of these places, all those little places that are competing with each other on the Green Mile, they're all going to have to be separated, and some of them, just by sheer number, are going to be culled from the herd. So then what happens? What happens? So basically, in the city of Detroit, where these people are providing employment to people that are behind the counter, you've got at least a couple guys in these shops all the time that they're open. Right now, there's no requirement about when you've got to be open and when you got to be closed. It's basically when customers come. You know, how it's an open question. You could close at 10 o'clock at night if you wanted, if it makes business sense to your business. But if this ordinance passes, everybody closes. I think it's 8 o'clock. When it goes into effect, I think everybody's got to be closed by like 8 o'clock. You can't be one of these 24-hour places like there are now. There are some places where you can go and get cannabis at one of these places in the darkness of the night. The convenience is going to go away to customers. What happens if you work during the day and you work in the third shift? You're sleeping during the day. You got to get up in enough time to get the dispensary before it closes and then still manage to get your stuff done before you got to go to work, right? And then all the choice and selections, the choice and selection is going to disappear, and the competition is going to go away, so the prices are going to go up. Well, I can charge more now because the guy that used to be next to me that was charging less went away. So this is what we're facing. And Larry, what we were talking about before we went to break was this idea you were talking about. You couldn't believe that there's this requirement that you be a certain distance from a liquor store or say a pharmacy. I don't think that. See, if the pharmacy sells alcohol, you're going to have to be a distance from them. I don't think there's a distance requirement from a standard pharmacy. I don't think there is. But there is a distance requirement from somebody serving alcohol or selling alcohol. So bars and any place selling liquor or alcohol, I'm not sure, does it apply to beer and wine? I think it would. It talks about any special, what do they call it? Special variance or special, not variance. Variance is the distance between special protected class. That's what it is, a protected class. And I think they're talking about these special licenses. Do you have to get a special license from the city to sell tobacco products? If you do, it's probably considered a protected class. Then you got to stay a certain distance, probably 2,000 feet from a Wild Bill's. So if maybe it's just a cigarette shop, it's a tobacco shop, but you're going to have to stay some distance from it. What it comes down to is that there's going to be loss of shops, a loss of competition, prices are going to go up, choice is going to go down, convenience is going to go away. And that's just on the upside. That's the best you're going to have. There might be some downside from that. It might not be 40 shops just because there's room for 40. What if they only pass out licenses for 20? This is a problem, isn't it, Larry? I mean, do you see an issue with this with regards to being an American?
Well, I see a lot of problems with that. I mean, there's if you have a product and you want to sell it, that's fine. And it's a safe product. It's safer than alcohol. It's definitely safer than McDonald's.
Well, wait a minute. Let me just play devil's advocate. So just assuming that you're correct, cannabis by itself, I agree with you. And assuming that the person who would argue against you agrees with you that cannabis is a safe product by itself. What about since it's not regulated? I mean, you could have pesticides or other harmful things in there that you didn't grow it right and it's got mold or mildew on it. That's going to hurt people, especially medical patients. What if you used other contaminants like pesticides or heavy metals in your nutrients? You splash the stuff around, you got it on the plants. Those things are toxic. They're never going to go away, or they're going to be harmful to your health.
Yeah, right.
So, perhaps
it should be regulated and by a form of government that is actually sensible, in my opinion. But I'm not sure we have that now.
I think you won't get much argument, except for maybe some extreme Republicans, because there are some extreme people on the right end of the spectrum that would argue, no, the less government intrusion, the better. And but where is the line drawn? because they're not saying no government intrusion. They're just saying the less the better. Well, what is less? And where is that line? I mean, less is pretty vague, isn't it? It just means small as you can get it. Well, what is as small as you can get it? Nobody's ever defined that. And I guess it's a graduated scale. It could slide all over depending on what topic you're talking about as to what. When you're talking about nuclear material, I bet you everybody wants government regulation on nukes, right?
Well, I want no nukes personally, but
correct. But given that they're out there, you want to have some regulation on. Well, you don't want no nukes because then how do you do X-rays or how do you do anything that glows in the dark? I mean, people use, material that is nuclear all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean.
Yeah, I guess you would have to define nukes, as it were.
Well, anything that's any kind of nuclear material, any material that emits nuclear radiation, I think is considered a nuke.
Well, yeah, true enough. But I think creating radiation, and this is a topic I didn't expect to get into, but
well, I'm just using it as an example. I'm using it as a regulation example. You would get no arguments from people about regulating something like nuclear material.
Well, right.
And you wouldn't get any argument from somebody talking about regulating how you handle biological material that is not safe in the open public, like Ebola, other level 4 viruses, hemorrhagic fever. When they transport this stuff, you want to have rules and regulations around that. You don't want to mail that stuff in the mail, right?
Well, right. I think there's some regulation that needs to be done on pretty much anything that's going to be
dangerous.
Well, dangerous, and I think also, there needs to be a public service announcement, a PSA, on what is actually really happening in the drug war.
Well, yeah, for sure. This is all a larger part of, this is a smaller part of that larger conversation about the drug war. Because personally, we're talking about cannabis right now. That's the mainline subject we're talking about. It underlines everything we're discussing here. But if you switch the topic to LSD or cocaine or heroin or any of these other drugs, my policy decision would still be the same. Not that you should be handing this stuff out in dispensaries or this kind of thing, but you should have some place where people could go and get it safely and get it reasonably and not be contributing to illegal activity with cartels and gangs and guns and violence and death and murder and mayhem, because that's where that money goes if you don't take it away from them. Give some people that are going to use and abuse these drugs on their own the depth and levity in order to go use it as responsible adults. Because although, yes, many of these substances are dangerous and many of them deadly, at least you're providing them with something that they know what they're getting. They know how much they're getting. They know how to use it. There's no question about that. Somebody knows and is giving it to you. Just if you're an addict, I don't care if it's crack. Let them buy the crack from the government somewhere and let them go use it safely somewhere. You're either going to then offer them other opportunities, offer them treatment, offer them jobs, offer them things to get them away from the social health issue that is now a criminal justice one. It would be the same. My argument would be exactly the same. It would just be in a more dangerous turf.
I totally agree on that. Absolutely. I think it's insane to institutionalize somebody for a bad habit, as it were, as they say. To do something illegal like cocaine. They did nothing wrong. They did it in their home. Didn't hurt nobody, but they were caught. The cost to the taxpayers is enormous.
Well, we've proven that the drug war is unenforceable and burdensome to the point of unfeasibility under current law.
Well, sure.
The drug war is a lie in its whole. But as you pick this apart from the city of Detroit, if you're talking about giving variance, making a requirement to be a certain distance from someplace, there must be some reasoning behind it. And right now, I believe the reasoning behind it is complaints from citizens who are concerned that their kids are walking past these places on the way to school. And also that the federal government's got a drug-free school zone rule that all drugs that are illicit, and let's face it, cannabis is still a Schedule 1, number 1. It's up there with all the rest of them. It's up there with LSD. It's up there with heroin. It's up there with ecstasy. All Schedule 1s. Well,
Oh, I know. I don't believe for a minute that it should be a Schedule 1. You know, cannabis, marijuana, pot, whatever you want to call it, is recreational. It's medicinal. There are many uses for it. However, I've not seen a person in my entire lifetime. We're roughly the same age, within a year or two of each other, and it's in my entire lifetime, I've not seen anybody get violent because of it, unless
alcohol was
they were
involved.
being ripped off.
Right, or alcohol was involved.
Well, you know, that might be it. You know, but
well, and
seriously, when somebody's dealing it illegally, selling it illegally, and somebody else wants that, that's where you get into a potential violent thing. But that's it. People that smoke it, I've never seen a violent act out of them. I've not seen...
Well, I would argue even that I would go one step further and say that under the prohibition environment, some of the violence in getting ripped off for cannabis might be attributed to the fact that they had to go through great extent and legal peril in order to acquire it and use it. So that if now you've taken it from them, they went through all that for nothing, you might get mad about that. But absent that, let's just say somebody stole your 6-pack of beer. If cannabis is the same thing as beer because you can go to the corner store and get some, somebody stole your eighth of weed or whatever, you're not going to go tracking them down and knocking them out because you didn't have to run across the city in the darkness of night and hide behind a dumpster to do that transaction and put yourself at all that risk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep, completely agree. It should be regulated to a point, where people can go access it anywhere instead of having to deal with a dealer, an illegal dealer.
So
it makes no sense to me.
Again, just drawing it back to the point, because we're talking about the Detroit City ordinances here, and the zoning restrictions and what that means, and so the craziness behind it is that they're going to require a 2,000-foot barrier between shops and any other protected class. At least we know one of them is places that serve or sell alcohol. And so that would mean any bar, that would mean any establishment that sells beer, wine, or spirits. And we know that there are many of those places located right next to each other, all over the place in Detroit, within 500 feet of each other at minimum. I imagine there may be some zoning restrictions just to protect the liquor license, of each establishment, say, 500 feet or 1,000 feet or something, just so that, each of these licenses can be protected and, you don't have to compete. I think there is some reasoning behind that, but it doesn't have to do with anything dangerous. And I think really any licensing issues might be required just around spirits. I don't think they do that around beer and wine. Point being is that why would they require that? Wouldn't you think that some of the complaints might be coming from liquor shops? No, I've got a cannabis shop to my left. I got a cannabis shop to my right. Everybody that used to come in my front door now diverts left and diverts right. Nobody comes in here anymore. I'm losing money on my liquor license. Wouldn't that be a valid complaint?
Well, yeah, that would be a complaint from the liquor store for sure. And I kind of wonder why somebody who owns a liquor license in a liquor store wouldn't be able to get a license to sell pot.
I think they could, but they couldn't do it inside their store because the liquor license is already forbidden by state law to be separate from all other drugs.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that should be changed. I mean, cannabis should be legal, for one.
For sure, but we're talking again about Detroit City ordinances. We can't change state law in the Detroit City ordinance. So we just got to deal with what state law is in working on the state ordinance. But from the standpoint of being separated from a liquor store, my point is, wouldn't the argument basically being that there's a lot of liquor stores, wouldn't you think that some of the old ladies bitching to these councilmen might be disguised as liquor stores? You know what I mean? It's not old ladies necessarily that are just doing the complaining. There might be some other legitimate businesses who are saying, no, these shops are impacting my business in a way that's negative, and I've already got a license.
Yeah, I guess I could see that to an extent, but I mean, I think
I'll put it this way. Do you think that alcohol is not a major prohibitionist in this country as an industry? Don't you think the industry of alcohol is a prohibitionist industry as it relates to cannabis?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You bet your ass they are. They're out there lobbying every single time one of these marijuana issues comes up. Alcohol comes out and lobbies and spends money, a great deal of money, to stop it. Why? What would be the reason behind that? Because chances are if you can get a doobie or a small package of marijuana that will last you an entire week for the same price as you could go get a case of beer and consume it in a night or maybe a night and a half with your friends or whatever, you might choose the weed. So,
well, yeah, sure enough. Yeah, I kind of wonder how that would actually turn out economically, per se, if it were legalized. But we are talking about ordinances in Detroit. So yeah, that's a good question. But still, if you don't, yeah.
It's hard to talk with the music, I know. Larry, hang on a second. I'll bring you back briefly after the break, but then we got to move on because we got to do another giveaway, the Great Lakes Canna Expo giveaway coming up after the break. We'll wrap up this Detroit City Council thing and then talk a little bit about football as we try to do this ticket giveaway. Coming up next, stay tuned to the Full Melt Show.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Your old friend the Crypt Keeper here with a Pottober News Bulletin. Ghoulies and creepies gathered around for a map to patients partying down. As the days grow shorter to the end of month 10, it's time to gather, friend among friend. Michigan card holders, admission is free to the X on the map dubbed Hall Deboween. This lure of free fun is perfectly true, and this is the invite. Yes, that means you. The vendors and speakers this day are just ghosts, exchanged for free entry, free food, and a toast. Asunder our differences this Hallows Eve, so we may bring fire to glorious weed. You may light up and your neighbor may match it. The smoke in the air is to bury the hatchet. The contests you enter are all also free. Considerable prizes for the winners there'll be. Can of meds are welcome. It's alcohol free. The Jam Shack, Mount Morris, from 7 till 3.
Daboween sponsors include Depot Town of Ypsilanti, Sweetly, Flint, Harborside, Ann Arbor, Third Coast, Ypsilanti, Dank Team, Flint, Two Guys in a Grow Shop, Burton, Florida Bob's Place, Puff and Stuff of Lansing, Happy Buddha, Lansing, The Spot, Kalamazoo, Compassion Club US of Grand Rapids, Iron Labs, Walled Lake, Herbal Solutions, Ypsilanti, Biocultivation, The Herbal Center of Mount Morris, IDK Farms, Kurtz Leach and Associates of Birmingham, Act Labs, Lansing, Bill Clark Fashion Investments, Burton, Hybrid.Life Magazine, Once Bitten, Twice Baked, Lush Lighting in Niles, Cannabis Council, Detroit, Nichols Law Firm, East Lansing, The Green Rock Cafe, Flint, Urban Garden Supply, Flint, also the Marijuana Ranch, Happy Harvesters, The Full Melt Show, Lindy's Bed, Matty Eddie, Flex Cocaine, Jaxica Farm, and BDT Hazel Park.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. Oh boy, do we have our work cut out for us now.
I feel you in these walls.
So we've talked a lot about this Detroit City Council thing. I've actually extended the program a little bit in length to talk about it. We've been talking with caller Larry from Highland. Well, Larry's gone now. What happened there? I don't know. Larry disappeared. I'm sorry about that. Maybe we'll get him back. Maybe we won't. As it works out, try to get rid of that. As it works out, we need to kind of free up the phone lines anyways because we're going to do a contest right now. Actually, I don't even care if you know the stupid Anderson Cooper question answer thing. I just told you the answer right there. I don't even care. So we'll just give it to the first caller. If you had to listen live, our live listenership is low. Most of our listeners listen after we're off the air. We got hundreds of listeners to every show after we're off the air, but very few people listen live. So this is an incentive to get people to listen live. So pair of tickets to the Great Lakes Canna Expo. It's happening at Burt's Warehouse Theater the 6th, 7th, and 8th of November. 2 tickets to that event and a Full Melt show shirt. Right now, call us 844-420-TALK. I don't think, Larry, if you call back, you might win because I don't think you've won anything yet. So now that you have won, if you called, if you beat everybody else to the bullet, you might be the live listener today that wins the pair of tickets. Good luck to you. 844-420-TALK. So really quickly wrapping up this thing about Detroit City Council. We'll find out probably tonight, later on after the program. There might be news stories being written as we speak about this subject. Sometime tonight, I'm sure the Free Press will write an article about what happened in Detroit tonight. Because it will start to change the face of what's happening in Michigan. And I say start because there's an avalanche coming down with 4209 and 4210 and 4278. Or I can't. Is it 427824? I can't remember that. The C to sale bill is a different one. 4208. Oh, wait a minute. 4209, 4210. Those are the dispensary bills and the concentrates bill. Those are going to get passed, I believe, at the Senate level. I think they're going to look worse after the Senate gets done with them than after the House got done with them. So it's only going to go downhill. It's already bad news. It's going to get worse. They're going to get that stuff passed along with the seed to sale tracking bill. It's hooked to them as a package. When that stuff gets done, I think there's going to be considerable pressure from across the state. Oh, we had a winner, but they're gone. Call back. I wasn't paying attention quick enough. I wasn't looking at the phone lines. When that happens, when those bills get passed, there is going to be an issue. There is going to be a problem. Because I think there's going to be considerable pressure from the state police and the county sheriffs to go and then close the existing establishments, even in places where they've carved out ordinances from them, because the state now has their own licensing procedure, and they can't compete with this other model. And they won't. I think they'll stamp them out. I think they'll put enough pressure by either raiding or talking the local police departments into turning tail on their own ordinances. Something's going to happen there. Because when they put this parallel system in place, I think we're going to have a winner. Hello, you're on the Full Melt Show. Hello?
Hey, Steve, it's Larry again. We got dropped. I've already won once, though.
Oh, you did win
I
once.
haven't received my...
Yeah, you haven't got it yet because we didn't send them out yet. So, yeah, for sure. So I was wrong about winning.
Yeah.
But
well, no, that's cool. So if you got a next caller, send it to them. You know, if you get another one. But
no, for sure.
Yeah, I love the show.
Well,
and,
thanks, Larry.
I like the information that you're spreading, even though I don't follow it as tight as you do, or some people do.
I can tell you that most people don't follow it that closely. Most people go to make a half-staff effort at going and getting a card and just going through the hoops to get the card, and they don't understand that if you don't follow the rules right, if you don't do the things right, even just in acquiring the card, that it will mean nothing to you when it comes time to have its only use put into force, and that's when you got to go to court or answer to a cop or a prosecutor.
Well, yeah, that's I can imagine that, and
so this is why we're here. This is what we're here to do, is to help people understand that process, what it means, just here in Michigan. But not only that, you got the same problems with these intricacies because it's very in-depth thinking. What goes into changing a major policy force in places slowly across the country until it's homogenous, until you got some federal oversight that is in sync with states on this subject. This is a big boat. It turns slowly. And so
without a doubt, it took many years for people to be anti-marijuana. In many millions of dollars to make people anti-marijuana.
Sure, it took a lot of free spots on public service announcements. This is your brain on drugs, any question?
Yeah, and long before that, as I'm sure you probably know in detail, but it just it's such insanity to me.
It is complete insanity. And you know what? Most of the country realizes that it's complete insanity. Most of the country, according to polling, is already on the same page as we are, at least from the standpoint of medical marijuana, and now to the extent of just free the weed, open free cannabis, because it's a tremendous waste of scarce resources to spend our tax dollars on imprisoning people and giving them big punishments and stealing all their stuff and taking away their ability to get a job and this nonsense over routine everyday Americans that are using this every day as if they just drive the car or turn on the faucet. This is mainstream America that the law is going against. Mainstream America is using cannabis. Laws still say no. That is a discrepancy that can't be paid for. If you locked everybody up, who's paying for them being in jail?
Yeah, well, taxpayers, anyone with a job.
Right. So listen, Larry, we got to close this out. I thank you for your call tonight. I'm glad you won before. We got to run along because I just got seconds to finish talking about this other issue with the NFL, which is what
get on with it, Steve.
We talked about the former NFL players forming the Pro Pot Sports Group. Thanks, Larry. We'll talk to you soon. So the Pro Pot Sports Group. God, am I going to have time to tell? I'm going to have to stop the program content again. I'm going to have to interrupt normal content just to get this last story in. It's the story that I labeled the show over. So let's just explore this momentarily, shall we, please? Because if you don't talk about this, nobody ever consumes it. The Southwest Cannabis Convention featured more than just information about the products and services of the medical marijuana industry. This, according to azcentral.com. Publication comes out of the Central Arizona in Phoenix. The convention, which concluded Wednesday in Phoenix, also hosted a number of seminars led by local experts and nationwide enthusiasts, some of whom are former NFL players. We are human beings with pain and emotion, and the more people talk about it, the better off we will be, said Nate Jackson, a keynote speaker and former NFL player. If you remember, he was with the Denver Broncos. Jackson and former pro football players Ricky Williams, Eben Brighton, and Kyle Turley formed the Gridiron Cannabis Coalition when they all ended their professional careers. The organization talks about the benefits of using medical marijuana rather than standard pharmaceutical painkillers. Its goal is to help former athletes and the public recognize the advancement and process of cannabis use for illnesses and injuries. Cannabis should have been implemented into my recovery process, quote unquote, said Turley, while speaking about his concussion and knee injuries. My career would have been much longer, and I would have not had to suffer through the pitfalls of my career and my life. The sad thing is that people still aren't being properly diagnosed. Turley, Williams, Brighton, and Jackson discussed their personal experiences with marijuana and noted the differences between the drug's recreational and medicinal uses. I only did what I knew was best for me, Williams said of his medicinal use of marijuana. The former players said the National Football League's stance against marijuana is misguided and outdated. Here's another quote from Turley. The NFL is becoming more against cannabis, and they still neglect to follow the science. Jackson, who compared the NFL to the military, added, cannabis is a choice, and the NFL doesn't want you to have that choice. The difference between effective and addictive is social acceptance and public opinion, Williams said. It may not be the answer for everyone, but let's at least look at it and see. On the same day, Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery spent part of his weekly press briefing denouncing marijuana, citing studies that contend many people with Arizona medical marijuana cards are violating guidelines and that its use is associated with family dysfunction and impaired driving. More prohibitionist messaging coming from the prosecutor's office, coming from the police department, the very ones who are hooked. And I'm talking, you want to talk about an addiction? These guys are addicted to the money of prohibition on cannabis. They are addicted to it just like the needle going in a heroin addict's arm, and they're not going to give that addiction up easily.
You're getting the full melt.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
Show is a production of TFM Media.